This is the next video in the series about lead acid batteries. But first of all, let's address some comments from the last video. And the primary one is from John O'Toole. And he was talking about why don't you want to use lithium batteries? Well, lithium batteries are great, without a shadow of a doubt. And they need electronics on each one to stop them being over discharged and overcharged. So they're not quite as flexible as lead acid, but they're mighty expensive. You know, you can pay £1,000 for a 12-volt battery. Reclaimed batteries from EVs, electric vehicles, will come on stream at some point, but I think actually the recycling or reusing of those is already taken care of, fitting into things similar to the Powerwall, where it's a backup battery system that runs in tandem with a grid system and can be retrofitted without major rewiring. So I think they're all going to be used for that. However, lead acid is still used a lot, and it's relatively easy to obtain, and it's a good way of extending the life of an industrial unit that would otherwise be scrapped and recycled. You could get another 20 years out of them, and that, to my mind, is a good way of behaving, extending the life of things. However, you do have to care, and with most of these systems, and I really don't want to call them off-grid, because you don't have to be off-grid to have a battery system. In fact, off-grid really is in your head. It's about not being involved in the corporate sector as much as some people are. However, John's comment was entirely valid, but it's down to cash and availability. I'm sure in certain parts of the world lithium cells are just not available. And I'm just going to show you a few sizes of forklift or electric vehicle batteries that I've got here at the moment that I'm working on. And then I want to talk about voltage and specific gravity and electrolyte level. So there's the Trojan units. They're not the same ones as we looked at last time. These are more that are undergoing the equalisation and charging, and then the testing to make sure that they're up to the job. Those are 225 amp hours, and that is normally measured between fully charged and a terminal voltage of something like 1.85 volts. So there is still more power in them at that point. So if you totally discharge a battery, you've got to charge it back up to the point where it's flat, and then you've got to charge it again to bring it up to fully charged. So a flat battery takes more than, in this case, 225 amp hours to charge it up fully. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. The discharge level is set, and it's not when the battery is totally flat. These batteries here, which we're about to do some work on, they are 700 amp hour batteries. Quite nice. Yeah, we'll do a video on those later when I get round to it. And then over here there are some quite nice little batteries. 2 volts again, lead acid, and they are about 200 amp hours each. So effectively 6 of those has a similar capacity to the Trojans, but the plates will be more robust in these cells, because generally it's a lot bigger. So now I'd like to look at the whole thing about voltage, specific gravity and electrolyte level. So let's just have a look. So the first thing to explain is, and I've already alluded to it, voltage is only a very rough guide. Let's just see, can you see that? I think you can. See, that shows 6.19, 6.2 volts. And you go, okay, is that fully charged or not? Hands up at the back there if you know. And here lies the conundrum. Now those who will be paying attention will know that the true test is specific gravity, and that is at 1225. So therefore it's not fully charged. Let's try the next one. Similar, it's about half charged. And the next one, about the same. Let's try a different cell. So this one here shows 6.3. You go, oh, that's better. Let's have a look at the specific gravity. Yes. Again, 1225. So it's not charged up. The voltage is different. So voltage is only a very vague. See, that one there is 1250, maybe even 1260, and that one is 1275. So there's one cell that's low on that, and this is where this equalisation charge comes in. You must make sure that all the cells are at the same state of charge, or if you discharge them and charge them without taking much notice of what's going on, the low cell will get lower to the point where you start getting serious problems. Now, you can go to different cells, and we're going to go to this back one here. Okay. Oh, it's a bit cold this morning. This one's not been charged at all, okay, and it's quite low. That is 1150, so that's as low as I'd ever want it to go, ever. Yeah? So what's the voltage? Hopefully you can see that. And the voltage is 4.77. So you can definitely say that's a low battery. Okay, but there's lots of electrolyte in there. Now here's another thing that can be a problem. If you don't use a hydrometer, then you don't quite know the state of charge of the battery, and as the battery discharges, as I said in the last video, the SO4 part of the sulfuric acid goes into the plates to make lead sulfate, and effectively it means that the volume of the electrolyte goes down. And this can be mistaken for just electrolyte loss through charging when it gases, and therefore the batteries, you can top the batteries up thinking that you're doing a good thing, but in actual fact you're making the acid weaker yet still. And I think that's what's happened in this case, because the electrolyte is quite high, right? But it shouldn't be. If the battery is that low, then the electrolyte should be just at the level of the plates, not right up at the top. So I think these have been topped up in the false assumption that the electrolyte is going down through charging, whereas actually it's going down through reduction in volume because of undercharging. So there you go. There's another bit of the puzzle. Effectively, if you've got a household, then one person needs to be responsible for the batteries and actually care about them and want to understand them, because the whole of a wind and solar system is interactive. And we're now in November and we've had about 5 or 6 days, or maybe even more, of nasty low light levels, mist, low cloud, and even our big battery pack in the battery shed there was getting low, and so therefore I had to put the supplementary charger on. And how did I know it was getting low? Well, there's several ways. One is, and you've seen these before, it's a little voltmeter. It's a 2-wire voltmeter. You can get 3 wires where you need a power supply to drive them, but this is a 2-wire one. So it's driven off the voltage that goes to it. And this will measure between 5 and 99 volts. So we've got one of these in the house on the end of quite a light cable, but the cable is the best part of 70 yards long, and it's accurate to within about 0.2 of a volt. So you can see in the house what the battery voltage is like. And these are for sweeties, they're like £3 or £4, but they make all the difference. It's easy to see, it's fairly big, as you can see. They make smaller ones, but these big ones I like. And it tells you what the battery voltage is. So if you stick the kettle on, and in this case, because we're on a 48 volt system, if you stick the 1000 watt electric kettle on and the voltage here drops to, say for instance, 47.3, then you know the battery volts is going down. Then you know that the batteries are getting low. So that's a clue. Yeah. The other one, of course, is simple observation. It's been rubbish weather for 3 or 4 days. I better just go and check the batteries. In summer, it's not so bad. You know, you can be guaranteed good charging as long as you have enough installed capacity. And when I teach wind and solar, but primarily solar because it's passive and most people can cope with it, is the general rule is there's no such thing as too many solar panels. I mean, obviously certain people like to go to excess, and 1,000 solar panels on a property for your own consumption is excess. But as a general rule, you know, there's no such thing as too many solar panels. In summer you won't need them all. In winter you will need every last one. Not only the lower light levels, the lower the sun, the shorter the day. So there's that. It tells you what the voltage is, and it's remotely from the battery pack. The next one is awareness of the weather conditions, and then go in there with a hydrometer and go, oh, they're a bit low. In our case, the inverter will switch over to the mains when the volts go down, or we draw too much current, but it still means that the batteries are low. And then you can either have an automatic response where a charger comes on or a generator starts. And of course, in true off-grid, which, bear in mind, it's easier to have the mains as a backup than a generator a backup, but on true off-grid then you'll be running the generator every day anyway, and I assume in winter you will be running it for longer periods. All you're going to make sure is that it's keeping your batteries well up. And some of these batteries have suffered from the over discharge, not charge up properly, and need a serious equalisation. That'll do for the moment, more later.